Hello, we are back to finish up the signatures for our album, but before we do that, all of my glitter glue has dried, and I told you that I would come back in and I would place all the items, the signatures, in my album. So if you've been waiting to do yours, now would be a good time. So this is the signature that is number 3, and it's going to sit right here. And I am going to take off this edge here. Now I know I'm a bit off camera, but what I'm doing is I'm bringing it right up to the pocket edge, and then I am centering this. And then give me just a moment here and I will get back in frame a little bit. Now, I think in one of my videos, I caught it after I'd completed the video. I was just burnishing away, thinking that I was attaching that signature down to the page. And I went back after the video and it wasn't. And I think you saw it, that I didn't take the tape off. So it was really, I had to laugh at myself, you know, what else can I do? Get down here around those chipboard elements. Okay, so this one's in. And while we're here, I don't know if I showed you that I did cover the front and back sides of both of the pullouts. And, oops, I missed my pocket. So they're done. All right, now we're going to add this signature is going to go here. So let's take this one off. I take the one off next to, oh God, I just lost what I want to call this. Anyway, I always release this one first because it is the most difficult. Fingers are sticking to the tape. The most difficult one to get to. Once you've got this in here, so then it allows me to come in and pull the tape on the rest of this, and then I can burnish. Okay. Now this one is going to take a little bit of finagling because the tape is underneath this chipboard. All right, so we'll close this up, and we are now completed with those signatures. So now we get to move on to this signature. All right, we're going to have a lot of waterfalls on this. This signature is going to hold, let me see, we got 18, that's 36 plus 2, 4, 6, 8. So 36 and 8 is what, 42 some photos just on this signature alone. So this is the piece I'm using. The width of this, because it comes out of that 8.5 by 11, will remain at 8.5 inches. And the height of the page will be at 8 3/4 of an inch. Now on the base page, you're going to make a total of 18 3.5 by 5.5 cards. 18 of them. Let me get in here. So you're going to cut this so that you are 5.5 in your length, 3.5 in your height, and then you're going to score at 1/2 inch on this end, and you're going to do 6 of those just for this base page signature. Now, I find it a bit daunting to try and put all these on a video, so I cheat. I cut a piece of cardstock that was 3 inches by 3.5, and I put all of my signatures on it. So then all I am doing is placing this down, and it just saves me a lot of video time and a lot of video time for you, because you don't need to sit there and watch me tape all of this stuff. You know how to tape. This one down here, you're going to make 4 that are going to measure 6.5 in length by 4, and then you're going to score here. And then again, I used a, what did that be, 2 inches by 4, and mounted the waterfalls onto it. So again, it can just center and fit right here right away. So I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off the back and get these down. Okay, that's not going to work for me that way. My fingers always stick to the tape. And it makes taking this off. Okay. So I'm going to center this one down here so that I can center this one. I want to bring this too far over. Ah! Okay, I'm going to have to turn this upside down because I just cannot see what I'm doing. All right, I want to be about 1/2 inch off the top, and I want to try to have equal amount of space between the 2 ends. Okay, I'm going to cheat. Okay, that's as close as I'm going to get it. So what was that? About 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. Oh. Okay, so 1/2 inch. Now this one should just about line up so that they're even, and you should have about 3/8 of an inch in between them. Okay, I'm going to cheat again. I want to make sure that I'm 1/2 inch. All right, so on this big one down here, I trimmed down this particular card, and I'm decorating the front. Now, you don't have to do this. If you want to see a photo there, that's kind of nice, but that's not what I want. If you want to see a photo here, then don't cover it. Your photo can be placed on, and you can use the red edge of the cardstock as the framework for your photo. You will need to cut the photo down because if you're using a true 4x6 photo, you're going to need to trim them down a bit. And this is going to go here, or you can use a piece of paper. Ouch. And just cover it over there if you don't want a theme on the front of it. And then from scraps, I cut 3 1/2-inch pieces, and I did have them in order, but not going to work. They're just going to go on. I cut from the wrong end when I put those on. So the top one's not going to be in sequence. Whoops. And then we're just going to cover these ends. Now I understand that if you put a photo in here, you may be covering this up, or you can shorten up your photo so that it doesn't. But I like to put a nice cascade on the ends of these so that there's some color. Now up here on this one, from scraps, I trimmed out this piece to actually fit on the cardstock. I'm going to bring this down to me, so part of it's going to come off frame. But I need to get this close so I can see it. There we go. And then from the 8x8, we had a piece of paper that we had already previously cut into, and I'm taking this piece out and I'm going to put it in here. You can see on the back side of it has the smaller candy cane hearts. And then using the same piece of paper, and I want to try and keep these in order. Let's see how well I do. I trimmed out 1/2-inch strips to fit on the ends. Now, if I'm being careful, these should all fall into a pattern. See a pencil mark there. Okay, so then that has that pattern up on the top. Now, I cut 18 single strips to fill in this gap up here. These strips are 3/8 of an inch. So you can cut 18 of them. And I'm not worried about the pattern on these things. It isn't going to matter too much. But I'm trying to minimize the amount of red in between photos so that there is something pretty that fills this gap right here. And then this last one here on the back. Okay, so now that set is done. And then in a different color, well, it's the color of the base page is where I got the trims for these. I'm going to cover these. This last one. Okay, so that set is now complete. Let's go to our right side panel. These are going to mimic each other. So you can, once you get one done, you can speed through the other one. You're going to cut your panels, there'll be 2 of them, at 5 1/8 inch across by 8 3/4, which is the height of the base page. But on this, you're going to come in and you're going to score it at a 1/2 inch, and then you're going to score it at 3/4 inch. We need this deeper gusset to handle this buildup, plus the waterfalls that we're going to create on both those side panels. So when you put this on, you're bringing your work right up to that 1/2 inch score line, because we need that hinge up on the top so that it will help absorb everything that's going to be stacked up and built inside of it. Now we're going to repeat exactly the same size on our left side. Same score marks. And again, we're going to come right up to that 1/2 inch score line. Push that back to reinforce that score mark, and hopefully these are coming somewhat close together. We're going to flip back to the inside, and we're going to build the inside of the waterfalls for this side. Okay, so this is the piece of paper that I used. I do believe this came out of the 12 by 12. And then the same on the left side. You're going to trim and cut to fit. And your paper should come just in front of that 3/4 score mark that you have there. All right, so you're going to build another waterfall that will be on each side of this. Again, the measure, I told you to cut 18 of them. They're 3.5 by 5.5. And instead of it being vertical, these are going to go horizontal. So once again, you do a 1/2 inch score along this edge, so this is what ends up being 5. Your half is folded under, and then these are 3.5 in their width. But these are going to go this way on here. And then I trimmed out a piece of this blue from scrap, so it matches this. And then this is, I do believe, out of an 8x8 trimming, and that's going to go there. Over here on this side, again, I trimmed out the blue so it pulls in from down there. And again, another one, I think this came out of the 12x12s, but you'll find them. They're in your trimmings. So, but you can pick anything you want on the front of these. These just happen to be what I've chosen to use. So let me get these mounted in real quick. Again, there's 6 of them here on each side. And visually, I'm trying to see that I've got about the same going around each of the sides. Now my waterfall kind of cantered. I'll fix it later. And then I cut, there should be 6 of these. 2, 3, 4. No, there's only 5 because this is number 6. So I'm using the same paper so that there's a continued pattern. 1/2-inch strips. Again, you can use whatever. These are all out of scrap, so you can use whatever scrap pieces that you want to use. And then I will cover the hinge. So I'm going to start back here. I think this is where my canter went wrong. But like I said, I can fix this later. Just a matter of tearing it apart. All right, let's move over here to this one. And then I I'm putting in the blue piece that I cut for this. And then this trim. And then I will continue this pattern here across the bottom. I probably shouldn't be gluing this because I don't know that it's really dumb on my part. Oh my, I probably just screwed up there. It's probably too late to take, I'll just trim it off. I looked at this and I have paper hanging over the end. I'll just trim it off. And same here with this one. Well, silly girl. All right. Okay, so those are down. And that completes the inside waterfall assembly. We're going to close this. And then, yes, I'm staying with the blue theme. These are going to be trimmed to fit to come here on the outside. I can go ahead and put this one down, but I can't put this one down because this is going to be our closure. And then I'm going to line this in red bling. So like I said, I can get this one down. And then on this, I just took what was in my scrap that was big enough to fit on the back side of this. So yes, the hearts are going to go in the wrong direction, but I was not going to cut into another piece of paper just to facilitate covering the back of this. All right, so I am going to mount this to my cardstock. I'll give you the measurements here just a second. It's just a little bit larger than the card itself. So it came in at 4 1/8. by 6 1/8 so that it was trimmed around. Now, what I need to do is I've marked in here where my center is. I've got my magnet on here, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back side of the magnet, reestablish my center, and then I can slide this off, and there's my magnet. Okay. Now I can take and put my backing on. And I'm just going to glue it. There are more cards if for some reason I have to take this apart. Now I can put this piece down, but I am going to tape this one. I'm not going to risk having to change the whole front if I misplace that magnet once this is all together. I'm going to use the tape on that magnet to help me center this. All right, so if I let this magnet find its mate on this, then I know from this penciled edge, which is got to get erased, this direction here, I can either glue or tape this. And I think what I'm going to do is I am going to I want to bring my tape in roughly 2 3/4 of an inch on this end. So 2 3/4 of an inch is going to have me right there and right there. I'm just going to frame it. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of tape putting this on. Regret this. All right, now my next little embellishment will be to put down the bling. To frame this in. Oh, I did not lay that straight, did I? Okay, there we go. So that completes. Now, I wouldn't put anything here because you've got to deal with this magnet. So this is just going to be the way it is. But then you've got this waterfall, you have these two waterfalls, and you have this one. So there you have it. Let's turn this thing over. Let's get some tape on the back of it, and we'll get the final signature put in the album. Now, as I'm taping, I don't know if it is happening to you or not, but I do have this end of my hinge is wanting to flatten out. So I will pay particular attention to when that goes in the album so that I can push back on the edge to keep it straight. So that means they're running this way. I want the support of this tape to run the length of the two waterfalls on the flap. I'm going to take out this one, and this one. And I am going to get this centered as best as possible on here. But I need to make sure that this hinge here is not flattening out when I go to lay it down. Oops. Okay, I gotta do it this way. Top to bottom, and push back on this one right here so that it will stand up. Now, I have another corner that's wanting to flatten out. It's going to be easier to make sure it stays straight from this end. So I'm going to push back on both of these corners, and it stands right up. Okay, we're going to have make sure that's well burnished in there. And if you notice back here on the back side, you can put some additional photos or memorabilia, and we are done. There you go. Hey, thanks for hanging in there, and I hope that you'll subscribe, and I would love to see you on a future album I build. So until then, bye-bye.